I know you're probably doing stuff, but you know, I'm working on Create Academy, and definitely I want to have probably many conversations with you about that. But you know, part of the premise on Create Academy is that I'm like creating these curriculum pages that have like just free YouTube training, but I'm trying to like curate it, find the best stuff. Part of the premise is like all the information is so abundant and there's so many good resources. Like even what you and I did was really good. You know, we got you out to Oregon, we did the perspective drawing stuff, and that's really good. But then you even look on YouTube and there's like a million perspective drawing videos and stuff like that. And I definitely think there's room to redo it and come at it from different perspectives, and that's still really good. But the thing I wanted to like kind of run by you is just talk a little bit about the illustration curriculum that I've been putting together.
Okay.
You are a world-class illustrator.
Oh man, you're too kind.
I mean, it's ridiculous, dude. You're just like, oh, I'm going to do Groot. And like 2 days later, it's like, holy crap.
It doesn't go that smoothly, but I'm glad it looks like it goes that smoothly.
It looks like it's going exceptionally smoothly.
Good, good.
But like how much illustration did you do in like your art school realm, if that makes sense?
Oh man, I did a ton. I spent a lot of time in figure illustration, which I really loved. Drawing fundamentals, which is a lot of what our course is looking at, drawing in perspective, understanding simple one light sources. I did a rendering class, which was all markers, which I think that helped a lot because it's really difficult to shade with markers. You had to learn how to work quickly and see things only in value. And you would work this, you could only go from either dark or light to dark. You couldn't find that middle and then take away and everything like that. So that was a really good one. And then I think
sorry, you said the first big thing was figure drawing. Like I assume every illustrator has to do a crap ton of figure drawing. Because it's so hard at first too. Like
it is, but you are on a time constraint. You literally will have like, so we would do warm-ups where our person would pose for 2 minutes or sometimes 45 seconds of pose. And it would just be quickly gestures.
Quick gesture stuff, yeah.
And then it would get into longer poses where it'd be a half hour, 45 minutes that they would pose for. And then you would just draw what you see, and it's just this consistent back and forth. But it was good because you had to just accept, hey, okay, I'm here. I have to draw. If I don't, I'm going to have nothing.
Okay, so that's interesting. Putting a time constraint.
That's one of the things that I've been telling my students lately, and a lot of things that I get asked about or interviewed about with illustration is, especially in the beginning, set a time for yourself. Like you're not going to be good in the beginning, and that's okay. Like you're not supposed to be. So don't get so enthralled in that one drawing being the best thing ever, when if you can draw 10 other things in that same period of time, you're going to feel better about it, and you might have a little bit more confidence and pick up on stuff.
Is it part of it because it's like when you're first learning illustration, you're so bad at the structure of it, they just want you to like go over and over and over, like think about the bigger structure, think about the bigger structure. Then like you're saying, you have to advance into rendering and fine details.
So again, like the art illustration course, I very much wanted to stay with the, hey, once you learn these basics, then you can start doing everything else. Like I just was talking about this of, if you're going to go run a marathon and you don't run, you're not going to start with just running a marathon. Start with running around the block. Start with running around 2 blocks. Slowly build your way up. And drawing, for me, my path was that exact same way. Like, yeah, there'd be times where I try to go way too far past what I'm able to do. But if I didn't understand those basic structures, everything else falls apart. You can actually draw your face out of a series of just cubes and breaking it down and drawing it in 2-point perspective. It's kind of actually difficult, but I mean, it can be done. So if you understand 2-point perspective, also now you know how to draw a nose in perspective. So that stuff can go a long ways.
So the initial structural drawing is typically basic shapes. In an art school, it's like, have a circle, shade that, have a cube, have, I don't know, a multi-sided shape to work on that.
And then you can start carving away from that, like you're drawing from clay. And then other things is just looking at portraits, or not portraits, but looking at photography. Like hell, look at Paige has so much photography I have hanging up in my house. Sit there and try to draw what you see in that. Like look at the way that she may have laid things out. Maybe her horizon line isn't across the middle. Well, why isn't it across the middle? Well, she thought it was more appealing to drop it into a third. And how did she frame things up? Like now you're not using cubes and boxes. You're looking at real world stuff done by somebody who understands photography layout or understands composition. And you can learn a lot from that way too.
Yeah, how much like just, I don't know if they call it still life drawing. There's like a thing of fruit on a table and you just gotta like, okay.
I had a class like that and that one was tough.
Yeah.
But it's rewarding. Like you have to literally like, we had to mark down where our seats were by tape on the floor. And then that way, like the next class, we would set our chairs up exactly where we were and try to pick up. Yeah.
Get that same perspective.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, so that's like very similar to the kind of curriculum we're putting together. So like module 1 is, and the first module of all these tracks are a history module, just like history of illustration, visual communication. I always think it's good to start people off with like, just brush up on the context, the history. I mean,
start to appreciate it.
A lot of it's pretty straightforward, but like I always enjoy looking at that stuff.
Yeah.
Then yeah, second module, basics of structure, light, and perspective. I don't know if that's too many things in one. I don't know if perspective drawing needs to get inched back slightly and like more just about, but to me, it's like, how do you separate structure away from perspective? I feel like I learned that from you in our time of like, the structure is relative to its perspective.
Yes.
1 point, 2 point. Okay. Maybe lighting and shading and rendering could potentially be bumped out slightly.
Yeah, having that follow perspective might not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how anybody could excel at drawing or illustrating without understanding how to do perspective. And to even show that, like some of the students in MoGraph Mentor, I'll always plug the program or that class and say, if you have some time, go back and do it. And some of the ones that have done it, it's night and day, their work. Like I had a student last semester who did this pile of books, and the first drawing of it was, I mean, it was all right, but it just looked like a, and I was like, if you can just pull this in 2 point and then understand how to like make things a little bit more random and offset. And she did it and it looked amazing in comparison to where she had started. Yeah. It was unbelievable. So
that's what I was blown away from our time together. It was just like, even just spending 2 days with you, I was like, oh my God, it's quick. It's so, you can pick it up so quickly.
Yeah.
There is like, there's a bit of a science, at least to the simple part of it.
Yep. And you did such a good job of like, yes, you're right. All this information exists out there, but you packaged it in a way that says, hey, you don't have to search for it. You don't have to wonder if the information you're getting is good information or if maybe you're missing out on something. Like here it is in a good program of following through it. And I think that's where the value is.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that we're seeing students like just even make that subtle shift in their mind. That's always the biggest thing people struggle with first, I think, is like, because I mean, we've talked about it before, everyone's mind, when you're like, okay, let's do a visual essay, they immediately think like a person in a place doing a thing, and it's the place, setting people in a place. That's wildly difficult. If you're like a graphic design background or just an animation background, it's like, well, now you've just moved into illustration and perspective. So you've got to have those basics. So I do, all right, basics of structure and perspective. I have a whole other module just called 1 and 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3 point perspective.
Yep.
I think you would agree, just like you've got to do a lot of it. You've got to do 1, 2, and 3. 3, I think I learned from you, is a little more special use case. It's not going to be as common.
But it's nice to know it exists.
It's nice to know how it exists. So then maybe you can correct me. Then the next module is figure drawing introduction, like those first gesture drawing. I don't know if there should be a middle point between that, if that's too quickly to ask someone.
In my opinion, you may already have this. The body is broken down very mathematically. Like your face is broken down. Your head size, your body height is usually, I believe it's 7 heads tall. Yeah. The width of certain things, your proportions, where your hands reach out, there's an average to all of that, especially with the face structure, like drawing that line down the center and how everything falls in line. I would say that that should be before, hey, now draw figures. Like help people understand that this isn't just random, that there is, you know, a precise rhythm.
Almost like a human proportions structure module. Like think about it in a block. Yeah, that's good.
Because once you have that, or I can say once I had that, it was almost like that roadmap where it was this, okay, great. Like I have the best starting point versus I'm just going to kind of hope for the best.
Yeah, kind of human structure and proportions.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a good preceding type of thing to actual
gesture. A little bit of confidence. It's definitely going to help out with people who want to get into storyboards, those type of drawings.
Okay, so something on that, then into figure drawing, figure and gesture drawing. Then it kind of jumps into, I've got a couple modules, like one's called concept and composition. So now thinking about, I mean, now it's almost moving more into design of like, it's like a poster assignment. I want them to like have a poster assignment and have a brief of like, so what did I say here? You know, select a poster based on a concert. So they have a choice. The constraint is either choose a concert and an artist you like. So like, let's come up with a poster for some band you like for an upcoming show or something. Or a select magazine cover. So if you imagine yourself doing more editorial type illustration, is it Time magazine and the issue is the climate, like just, you can have that constraint. So that was, I feel like it's moving into a slightly different realm there, but this comes to a larger conversation of like, people go to art school to do illustration so that, to me, it's like to become a commercial illustrator. And like, I have a hard time thinking, you know, I know illustrators go and work at feature film studios or go work at MoGraph studios and do that type of thing. I don't know if I'm thinking too narrow of like the poster magazine cover realm. I wonder what your thought about like, what are the endpoints for someone who's just hardcore studying illustration? And maybe that's it. It's like,
what helped me was knowing all the different ways I could use illustration to make money. So if you had an assignment and left it open and said, pick your favorite TV show, pick your favorite movie, and I want you to storyboard the first 45 seconds of that. 60 seconds could be a lot, but the first 45 seconds of it, and literally go through, hit play, pause on the first shot, and draw out what you see.
Oh, interesting.
Pause on the second shot, draw out what you see, and just rough drawings. They don't need, if it's a person in a conversation, draw your rough outline of the face, draw that eggshell shape with your crosshairs, and then kind of block out the shape of the body. Keep it loose, but you're going to learn framing, you're going to learn variation, you're going to learn why or how things get put in. So you might have an establishing to a close-up, or why is the person talking always on this side of the screen, but the person they're talking to always on the other side of the screen. So they might start to pick up on those small things.
So kind of the film application, if you're going to go into like a linear media environment.
Yep.
So there is the film world. There is the editorial world of, you know, just the illustrator that makes a badass thing. Like a lot of my favorite illustrators are like doing magazine covers, doing covers for the New Yorker, doing stuff like that. Film, editorial. I mean, just ad agencies hire illustrators, right?
Oh, all the time, yeah.
Like, so just commercial work, right?
Yep.
Like post, you know, a billboard, the bus stop, you know, application.
Yes.
The ad agency
that basic layout.
Which I guess could just also, you know, be called commercial application. You're going to sell things. Then I don't know if it's really. Then there's like almost the rendering world. Like if you were going to go work at GM or Ford and you're just going to draw cars, I don't know if that's more actually, you would be a specific industrial designer at that point. And that's not like someone with an illustration degree from an art school.
Correct. So you need to, so I have a friend and she did a ton of it. Like she's trying to break into that field. How much work they had to go into doing that stuff is a whole new world for me.
Yeah,
but it's wild. So I wouldn't be able to speak too much on
to like render car mock-ups, concepts.
Yep, to do the concepts and everything that went into it and what actually sells to like Ford or GM, the stuff that they look for. That's just a conversation that I have no
Sure. Yeah, I think I'll leave that off. I don't think that's, I think that's like more almost industrial design at that point, because it's not even about making it pretty. There's specific things about aerodynamics and engineering.
Yep. And then what are going to be your light catchers, and what's going to be that shininess that's going to bounce light so one side doesn't look flat, and really understanding how to light a car and those hard lines versus the soft bevel curves, and really what they kind of get after.
So in film, it's like people go into storyboarding, and man, there's always work for that. But like I see illustrators complain that like that is not the most desirable work, probably because it's grueling and it's like.
And you can't be invested into anything. Just like animation, though, there's times where maybe you're not creating the best thing, but you're creating what needs to be made. So, yeah.
I mean, also within film is just straight character design and art direction and environment design.
It opens up your world into like Henrique's class, where you get into cell animation, and that's a big thing that people love. But you need to be able to draw to do that type of stuff.
Yeah,
he does a great job teaching you how to make your speed charts and everything like that, and showing you his process. But if you don't know how to draw something moving towards, if you don't understand foreshortening, it's gonna be, I don't know, you're never gonna make it.
So there's really the film, the entertainment industry could use you in certain ways. Editorial industry can use you in certain ways. Magazines, books, newspapers, hire. That's it's hard for me to. I could probably do some research and figure out like how big each slice of the pie actually is.
Actually, I would even be interested to see what that looks like.
It's someone has data on like the number of. Yeah, I mean, we could get obviously just the raw size of the entertainment industry, but like what slice of that is.
Because there's all the concept art that gets done for films and everything of that nature, and
which is just so much.
Environmental design. But yeah, that's a lot, and it's good. Like that's a good thing. I don't say it as a negative.
Yeah, that's probably like the most primo gig. Like go work at Disney, Universal, like whatever. Even live action films start with concept art.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The stuff that you do over at ILM, I just sit there and just,
It's like you could go into that world if you wanted to.
I don't think I could. I don't think I would enjoy it. No, I think I'd be surprised if I could go into that world, honestly.
Well, you're saying because you wouldn't enjoy it, not because you don't have the technical skill.
Both. I don't know if I do have the technical skill in a commercial setting. If that makes sense. Like, it's just one of those things where I think I do, but until I'm in that situation, I wouldn't be positive.
So then we have the ad agency commercial world, which is like, I mean, and like part of me wanting to think through this is in building the briefs, the possible briefs that they could work from to help them contextualize like a portfolio, take your portfolio in a direction of where do you see yourself fitting in this scheme of how illustrators are used. The billboard kind of world, bus stops, just obviously print ads. You put an ad in a magazine.
Books, posters, that type of stuff. May not be a huge paying market, but it's a market.
And it's like, it seems likely you would be employed at an ad agency or a production studio primarily. Although you see, you see freelancers that are just kick-ass illustrators that are doing New York Times covers and like just getting really cool gigs. But I'm kind of classifying that in the editorial realm. Although the skills are all similar, of course. I mean, I feel like that's it, right? Like you're going to go into film and entertainment, you're going to do editorial stuff, or you're going to do commercial work. Those are the only ways you're getting paid.
Absolutely. Nobody's paying just because you can draw a beautiful picture of their kids. Like not enough for you to make money comfortably.
Right. But I guess that actually is valid of like the 1 out of a million who's just going to do a poster series on Society 6 or like whatever and be able to make a living. I feel like that would be terrible advice to tell students like, you could definitely do that. It's like you almost certainly couldn't do that.
Absolutely. I would challenge anybody who would say that they would make a living that way.
Yeah.
I mean, hats off if they can. I don't see it.
It seems unlikely.
For example, look at Sarah Morgan, who just tried to sell a bunch of her prints. Sarah's got a huge Instagram following. I love her as a designer. I thought those prints, the first 50, would have been gone within a day, and she only sold about half of them. Like, people can love your work, but that doesn't mean they're going to buy it.
Yeah.
So
it's like you would need to sell thousands a year to honestly make a living doing it.
Sure.
So I mean, also within the ad agency commercial world is the MoGraph studios. Like I think about Yeah House, you know, Michelle, who was more like a classically trained illustrator. And then you get switched into being the art director because you're the person who knows how to draw and make pretty environments and like that kind of thing.
Oh, and she's a great example for it too.
Yeah, her work is so good. I know. I look at their work. I look at your work. It's like, shit, man. Everybody in MoGraph should like know how to draw at least like half decent.
I agree. Yeah. Like, actually, to be selfish, I hope people don't want to learn how to draw because it's less competition. But I'm also the exact opposite and saying to everybody, learn how to draw. It will make your life better.
I guess unless you're like a Sakani and you're going to be a 3D generalist and you're going to like make a whole living there. But if you're going to be in that 2D world and do explainers and stuff, like just doing icons and stuff, like it just doesn't feel like enough anymore. People need.
It's so automated nowadays, and people get stock art and everything like that. Like you're not. It's tough how fast our industry is evolving and trying to stay ahead of the curve or with it.
Yeah, there's just too many templates for like the simple text and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Okay, then so we kind of go through concept and composition. I know I want there to definitely be a module that like really defines kind of economic use cases for these skills. Module 6 we call it color, form, and communication, where they're going to study the basic color theory principles, basic design principles, which I think illustrators should know the basic design.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it's like easy enough to go through the list in a few hours and like get it in your brain. Then again, I said creating a series of 3 posters based on a nonprofit. So pick a nonprofit, figure out what they're about. I kept coming back to posters, but now that we're making this larger list, maybe I'll revise that and add some more possible constraints. Then I go into type forms as illustration, like a whole module on like use type. Again, I had this like posters in my mind. So again, it's like a poster based thing where I'm saying create a single poster based on a quote. Pick a quote, and then I want to see you illustrate the type forms. That I feel like is a good challenge.
Oh, absolutely.
Using only the type forms. So that's the constraint. You can only use type forms in the composition. Then as I'm going to do, I have a liberal arts module in there where you need to like read a book on econ, philosophy, or history, etc. And then write a, actually for this one, then create an alternate book cover for that book.
Oh, I like that idea. Yeah, that's cool.
I'm really going to encourage students to like incorporate the liberal arts into their design. Like if they're skipping art school and they're going to go this self-taught kind of hybrid path, you should like know about history and like try to understand the world a little better. So that's kind of,
I mean, even just when things and how long things have been around. The Baroque period was crazy for art. I mean, Renaissance was all right. I didn't like the Renaissance period personally, but like knowing and seeing the evolution of how it all goes is so important because it all stems back, and I could go on an hour-long rant about this, of have your own style, do your own thing. Like, I think people who do that are idiots. Like, you have to take what's been done and yes, put your own spin on it. Don't try to recreate exactly what you see, but it's being done for a reason. Lighting's a certain way for a reason. It looks good for a certain reason. And using those rules, you can kind of evolve your own look. You don't, not everybody's going to be an Ariel Costa that's just going to immediately come out of the gate with something that works. So,
yeah. Interesting. Not a fan of the Renaissance. Steve Savalle. Not impressed. Michelangelo and Raphael.
Also not a Picasso fan.
I had, so there's an art gallery next door to us, and the guy who's the the curator and the director who's an art history major at Ringling.
Uh,
So we've been like getting beers and, you know, hanging out a little bit. He's like, you know, I didn't study art history fully. I've studied it more now, but like, you know, there's so much. And he's telling me how Picasso like stole most of his work from other people. Totally blew me away with some of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in my opinion, he was lazy. Like Leonardo da Vinci, that man put some work into it. And there was like some conspiracies and some stories about him that probably are pretty messed up if they're real. And then just knowing that back then things were done as teams. It wasn't just Michelangelo. Like Michelangelo had a crew of people that would come in, do 70% of everything, and he would just come in and, you know, paint on top of it or add little extra flares or get that final finish. Like he was very team oriented, not individual based.
Michelangelo, overrated.
All of them.
Renaissance painters,
overrated quotes.
Rated. Then that's like basically it, man. Then it's like portfolio review project, and it's just like, okay, let's take the 2 hours it takes to understand what a portfolio needs to be like these days, which is simple, show the work, easy contact form. What matters is what you put in the portfolio. That's what's important about a portfolio, is show the work you want to get. So that's why hopefully that, you know, that module early on of like, is it going to be in the film industry? Are you going to be a storyboard artist? Is it more editorial? Is it more commercial ad agency side? That kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything I'm missing. Like, I feel like it was really helpful.
I think that's an amazing start.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't think of anything that you said that stands out to me.
I mean, the big stuff, right, is like, if you could become great at structural, perspective, figure, lighting, like, and that's really saying something. That's not easy.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That's very difficult, actually. And a lot of projects. And I mean, how long have you been drawing seriously?
Since I was a kid. It never stopped. Like I was just talking about it too. Last year I figured out hour-wise, I put about 330 hours just into my illustrations.
Okay.
So I mean, you add 330 hours to anything that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, you're going to start to get a little better, get quicker, or some type of progression.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. No, that's really helpful, man. I appreciate being able to bounce this stuff off you and get
anytime.
Your perspective. The other big thing is like, okay, so we're going to do this hybrid model. We got the desks set up, like we're getting closer. The next step is really finding a way to, again, create like an online mentorship model that works for people like yourself. So you're an amazing illustrator. The conversation is like, what is it in terms of money? What is it in terms of time that gets a Steve Savalle to be like, yes, I will take a group of 6 young illustrators and be willing to look at their stuff and do a 2-hour Skype. I'm not thinking like a MoGraph mentor every week type of thing. I want to find something that's looser and more scalable. MoGraph mentor is really intensive. This one, I want these people, I'm going to like stretch all this out over a further period of time. You know, is it a once a month type of thing? Is it an every other month? Is it, one thing I'm thinking is, okay, let's say theoretically you agree to be an illustration adjunct faculty member. And as people are signing up, you can like, I don't know if there's an application process, you want to see their application. They can like opt into your group of like, okay, Steve's going to be my adjunct guy, and there's going to be a review session, you know, every other week or once a month type of thing. You know, obviously I'll try to define it and present it to you more coherently.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Because then you want to know, like, what's the turnaround time on some of these projects? Because if it's once every 2 weeks and the turnaround time on a couple projects takes a little longer, then they may not get as much out of it.
Yeah.
And I like that idea of, because MoGraph Mentor is very special because of everything it is. But if with this, it's not as regular or it's not as expected, where it's not a weekly or twice a week thing, then maybe people will appreciate it more. Yeah,
I think so. And I mean, you know, I'm glad we're doing every week on MM. I know, like, there's some weeks where people didn't get anything done because it's like, oh, this came up and I had a thing, and like, oh, it blew up my week, and so just like 6-7 days, it evaporates super quick.
Yeah.
The other thing about Create Academy is like, it's going to be a more open enrollment kind of situation where I'm not going to have semester starts. So like, I'm almost thinking about it in terms of groups. So like, let's say you were just like, okay, I'll adjunct and I'll take a group and we'll put some max number on it. And we're going to do once a month this big session where like someone is showing their perspective drawing, someone else is further along and they're showing you storyboards, like even a mix across, not everyone's doing the same thing at the same time.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's a really smart move business-wise, because then you can take more people in throughout the course versus just, hey, we only have these lump times.
Yeah, and I think we've both seen just like the most flexible is the most realistic when it comes to online students, people in different countries, and people at different levels of expertise, and and that kind of thing.
When you have a central location, like online's a little different because you're able to market to a whole bunch of people. You can't tailor New Academy to people in Michigan because people in Michigan aren't flying down there for classes.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Keeping that open, I think, is a really smart move.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for your time, bud. I appreciate you setting me straight on illustration stuff. You're my illustration go-to.
I'll take it. Yeah, sometimes it's just a conversation back and forth, man.
Yeah, no, it's really helpful. Yeah, man, we're getting further along. It's really good. The website's taking me longer than I would have hoped. I'm working with Alan Lassiter. He's doing some like art direction, helping me just come up with some advertising materials type of thing.
Oh, that's cool. That guy's work's great. This running thing that he's posting on Instagram that he's working on and After Effects is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I like a lot of his illustration stuff too. He takes like really wonky proportions on humans, and like the thing he did for Ted, I thought really was charming.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I love seeing that stuff.
Yeah. But many more conversations come. How's your class? How's your class looking?
Good, man. I have a girl in Germany who's waking up at 1:30 in the morning every day, and she's still doing it. Like, she's a little powerhouse too. Like, I'm really impressed by the work that they're doing.
Wow.
But I don't, oh God. All right. I hope this comes out in a humble way. I set the stage in day one of, you're going to get out what you put in. This is solely choose your own adventure. I'm going to help you however you want to go down this path, but you have to decide for yourself. Are you going to make excuses for yourself? Are you going to dedicate your time to that? Whatever effort you put in, I'm going to also match. And I was like, and being honest with me, like, if you have a bad week, coming to class saying, I had a bad week, like, that's okay. That's a good thing. Or saying, hey, I failed. Great. Now we know what to work on. But if you come to class and you say, hey, you know, I got real busy at work and I just didn't have time. Well, that's a different battle that we're fighting now. Now we're trying to worry about time versus mentally you weren't able to get through something. I was like, if you tell me mentally you're stuck, I can help you. I was like, it's just got to be honest. So I do a very serious job of setting that stage early on. So I think that helps. Yeah.
No, I know. It kills me with the time change stuff. And we had less slots. We had less European mentors for class one. But man, we need to like send her like a special gift or something. If she's killing it at 1:30.
I see her screen. It's like 2:30, 3:30 in the morning, and she's still there. So
okay. That's crazy.
Yeah, she's
yeah, thanks so much, bud. Let's catch up soon, and hope the family's well, and come to Florida. We'll put you up. Come to the beach.
Yes, man, soon. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, bud. See you.
Bye.